The practice of learning through experience is not new. It has long existed across higher education. The theory of experiential learning itself dates back to the 1970s, which is informed by many other theories on experience that came out much earlier than that. Saying that, the popularity of experiential learning and attention on advancements in experiential learning are growing across higher education, provincially, nationally, and internationally. There's a number of reasons for that. I think as we're looking to enhance the learning experiences for our students, we're starting to embrace a range of pedagogical approaches, and experiential learning theory is one pedagogical approach that we use in higher education. Also, as students are looking to enhance the relevance of their education and are looking to make meaningful connections between what they're learning in the classroom and what their future practice may be, it's a pedagogical approach that also resonates with the benefits that the students are looking for in their higher education experience. With the increased discussions and attention to experiential learning theory across higher education, many practitioners are now starting to ask, what is it? And what can we do to help facilitate these learning experiences so that they are most optimal for the students that we're working with? Despite what people may hope, simply experiencing something is not necessarily educational in itself. In order for an experience to be educational, it must be deliberately structured and integrated with specific learning outcomes in order for that learning to be most effective. There's numerous of theories that can be used that exist on student learning, adult education, and how people learn through experience more broadly. One of the most popular theories that we see used across higher education is Kolb's experiential learning theory. So Kolb's experiential learning theory refers to a cycle of experiential learning that suggests that in order for learning to be most effective, students should hit the 4 learning modes of concrete experience, reflective observation, abstract conceptualization, and active experimentation. So ultimately what that means is that in order for learning to be most effective, students need to get hands-on experience. They need to do something. This is why we call it learning by doing. They need to take a step back and they need to reflect on the experience. They need to think about it. They need to integrate that with theory. So they need to think about their experience in light of previous knowledge and understanding. And they need to have opportunities to test out their ideas and try new things. So what constitutes experiential learning in higher education? Well, technically any experience that a student engages in has the potential to be an experiential learning activity. What makes it experiential learning is whether the students learn through that experience and whether it hits the tenets and the learning modes of experiential learning theory. So Kolb's experiential learning cycle in particular. Some examples of experiences that students engage in could be an engaging lecture, a guest speaker. It could be a field experience. It could be participation in student governance. It could be a party that students go to that goes awry, and they learn through that experience. Ultimately, though, as educators, when we think about structuring experiential learning activities in higher education, what we're really talking about, though, is creating deliberately structured experiences that are tied to intentional learning outcomes. Those learning outcomes can be tied to broader program or course learning outcomes in an academic context, or they could be tied to transferable skills such as skills of professionalism, literacy, etc., etc. Oftentimes, though, it's a combination of both academic and transferable skills that we ground the learning outcomes of experiential learning in. Some examples of specific activities exist across curricular, co-curricular, and extracurricular domains. There's really no limit to the environment in which they may be facilitated. In a co-curricular domain, we think of Ideas such as hackathons, work study, participation in student governance, peer mentorship as just some examples. In a curricular context, you have clinical placements, practica, co-op, field experiences, and then extracurricular are all the wealth of experiences that students engage in outside the classroom and outside of the structures and organizations of what happens on campus, but maybe integrated in some way to facilitate an educational experience during their time here.